The anti-gunners are putting a big push to get their supporters to make comments on the ATF's ghost gun rule change, and it's having a big effect. Sit by and watch this episode of Guns and Gadgets to learn more. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for watching. Today's video is brought to us by the United States Concealed Carry Association. The USCCA has a ton of great training and education for new and old gun owners alike. You can check them out at uscca.com/GNG, and as a byproduct of your membership, you get self-defense liability insurance. You can cancel at any time if you're not satisfied with your membership. And if you add on significant others, you also get a huge discount. So check them out. The link is down below. Thank you to USCCA for being a sponsor of Guns and Gadgets. Now, the anti-gunners. Shannon Watts and her Moms Demand Action. You have Every Town for Gun Safety. Everything you can think of right now, if you look at all their socials, they're doing a big push to get their members, their sheep, their followers, their lemmings to make comments on the ATF's website regarding their rule change for firearm frames and receivers. There's not many days left. We're under 2 weeks. I will have a link down below. It's also time for us to flood those comments, because I was looking through quite a few of them, and there's a lot of anti-gun comments on there. And that is playing right into the ATF's planned playbook to say, look, there's a lot of people that want this. We just have to do it. But the flip side is also a good thing too, and there's a lot of attention being drawn to this final, the final 2 week stretch here, less than 2 weeks. And Congress members are finally dusting off their eyeballs and paying attention. For instance, yesterday, Andy Biggs, who's a Republican from Arizona, along with Rep. Jim Jordan from Ohio, penned a letter to Marvin Richardson, the acting director of the ATF, and they're fired up. And this is, and I'll tell you everybody who signed it here in a second. But of course, I have the letter for you, and it's here on the screen. It says, "Dear Acting Director Richardson, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives attempt to expand to the definition of firearm, like other ATF regulatory efforts, is deeply flawed, beyond the scope of the ATF's authority, contrary to years of previous ATF opinions, and harmful to millions of law-abiding American firearm owners. We therefore request information about the Biden administration's flagrant effort to restrict Americans' fundamental Second Amendment rights. On May 21st, 2021, ATF published a notice in the Federal Register entitled Definition of Frame or Receiver and Identification of Firearms. The proposed rule would expand the definitions of several terms associated with firearms because the current regulations allegedly fail to capture the full meaning of those terms. The rule would also impose more marking and record-keeping requirements necessary to implement the new definitions. ATF's proposed rule goes well beyond the authority granted to the agency in any applicable federal statutes. The proposed rule would expand the definition of frame or receiver to include any part of a firearm that can house even one mechanism of the firing process. ATF concedes that its new definition would more broadly define the term frame or receiver than the current definition. Moreover, ATF expands the definition of a firearm beyond the intent of Congress in the proposed rule. The ATF includes, quote, a weapons parts kit that is designed to or may readily be assembled, completed, converted, or restored, end quote. However, the Gun Control Act defines a firearm as any weapon including a starter gun, which will or is designed to or may readily be converted to expel a projectile by the action of an explosive, and B, the frame or receiver of any such weapon. When passing the unconstitutional Gun Control Act, Congress did not include weapons parts kits, and the ATF took it upon itself to include assembled and completed, where Congress explicitly left those actions out of the governing statute. In fact, ATF seeks to unilaterally insert a new definition using language from the Federal Firearms Act of 1938, which Congress affirmatively repealed in the Gun Control Act of 1968. ATF attempts to resurrect the FFA's language through its new regulatory definition of the frame or receiver, so that a single weapon might be comprised of multiple frames and receivers. Any of these parts in ATF's interpretation would be considered a firearm so long as the director decreed any specific part or parts of a weapon is the frame or receiver. By doing so, ATF disregards its controlling statutory language in the Gun Control Act and ignores Congress's clear legislative intent in repealing the FFA. Moreover, ATF's proposed regulation creates a new definition to regulate privately made firearms without any statutory authorization from Congress to do so. ATF erroneously asserts that the Gun Control Act, quote, required all firearms to be serialized, end quote, and that to do so, ATF must require federal firearms licensees to serialize and record any privately made firearms they come across. This new mandate would greatly expand the statutory requirement that only manufacturers and importers must mark guns they manufacture or import. To enforce the serialization, ATF seeks to create a new federal crime of obliterating the serial number on a privately made firearm and establish a new category of dealer gunsmith who must mark and record privately made firearms. ATF's rule appears to be a deliberate attempt to usurp the authority of Congress. In so doing, ATF has also unconstitutionally infringed on American citizens' fundamental Second Amendment rights and privacy rights under the Fourth Amendment. We strongly urge ATF to abandon its proposed rule issued on May 21, 2021 entitled Definition of Frame or Receiver and Identification of Firearms. In addition, to better understand ATF's reasons for issuing the proposed rule, we request that you provide the following information. Number 1, please explain when ATF first began to conceive of the need to broaden the definition of frame or receiver and the identification of firearms through an agency notice. Number 2, please explain why ATF believes it is necessary to trace all firearms, and how tracing all firearms is consistent with the Gun Control Act of 1968 and the National Firearms Act. And number 3, please identify the offices within ATF that conceived, drafted, reviewed, and approved the May 21st, 2021 notice. Number 4, please explain whether the Justice Department reviewed and approved ATF's May 21, 2021 notice, including the entities involved in the review and the timing of the review. Number 5, please explain whether the Office of Management and Budget reviewed and approved ATF's May 21, 2021 notice, including the entities involved in the review and the timing of the review. We ask that you provide this information as soon as possible, but no later than 5 p.m. on August 17th, 2021. The House Committee on the Judiciary has jurisdiction over criminal law and federal administrative procedure pursuant to House Rule 10. If you have any questions about these requests, please contact committee staff at blah-blah-blah-blah. Thank you for your prompt attention to this matter. Sincerely, Andy Biggs, Jim Jordan, Louis Gommert, W. Gregory Stube, Tom Tiffany, Victoria Sparts, Scott Fitzgerald, and Burgess Owens. Now, if you're not familiar with what we're all talking about, I have a couple videos. I'll link them. You should be making an effort here to educate yourself on what the ATF is doing behind everybody's back to try to infringe upon your right to keep and bear arms. Your right, not their right. They didn't give it to us. And they're not going to get us to comply very easily by pretending to be kings. So this is not really big news, new news to us. It is big news because if you're not paying attention, guys and gals, it's time to pay attention. It really is. I'll have a link down below to not only the proposed rule change for frames and receivers, but I don't want you to forget about the other one that's not too far behind this one, and that's the proposed stabilizing brace ban that the ATF just drummed up out of nowhere. But there'll be a link down there to figure out who your legislators are and tell them that this is not constitutional. Tell them you will not stand for them to usurp the Constitution. And that'll be big, because if you just watch the video I did yesterday with every town and Mom's Demand and everybody else trying to put their own members into these races and get them elected so that they can write the laws instead of just advocate for them. There's a big movement going on, guys and gals, and it needs to be called out. It needs to have more people's attention brought to it. So thank you for your time. Let me know if you haven't seen this morning's video. It was the episode 1, the first part of the Freedom Trail in Boston. There was so much to see. It's going to be a multi-part video, just so I don't do a 35-minute video and draw everybody out to pasture. So let me know if you saw it, what you think down below, and I really look forward to seeing your comments on it. The next part of it is coming soon, and until we see each other again, be safe, stay vigilant, carry your weapon. Check out the uscca.com/GNG, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care, everybody.